handed you a box of Oreos and said, "Take as many as you want. Show me with your fingers how many cookies you would take." And now, what if I handed you a box of Oreos but told you you're only allowed to take one? Show me again with your fingers how many you will want to take now. If you held up more fingers the second time, then your brain functions similarly to the kids that I babysit, and you're experiencing a purely psychological response known as reactance. This is a mechanism where our brain wants to ensure that we're free to do whatever we want with our lives. In other words, we as humans crave choice. However, this is not the only process vital to our development, as we also need opportunities in our lifetime to eat a few too many Oreos to understand that this will make us feel sick. In other words, we need the ability to make mistakes and grow from them. The final process that must be acknowledged is the independence that allows us to self-regulate when eating Oreos for our well-being and not because our parents are looking over our shoulders. In other words, we need privacy. So you may be wondering why I'm stressing the importance of these 3 points to you today. And it is because I fear that our future leaders cannot properly use these 3 tools due to the new generation of parenting. Children of millennials are brought up in a world in which they face reactance every single day of their lives, as technology now plays a major role in the relationship between them and their parents. Parents today spend countless hours researching everything about parenthood, downloading apps to watch their child's every move, and controlling everything down to the minutes they spend watching a screen and the exact grams of sugar they consume. Although this may seem like a way to ensure child safety to some of you, children need room to navigate errors to grow and be independent, and parents must maintain this understanding even in a world today where you can know your child's every move. The first tool is choice. The theory of reactance was studied in 2006 by psychologist Anka Myron when she discovered that people's heart rate increased immediately when confronted with an illegitimate restriction. Heart rate also increased following a legitimate restriction, but only after a time delay. This shows that people are willing to follow reasonable rules. However, unreasonable rules often lead to frustration. It was not until I began babysitting, however, that I began to see the prevalence of this phenomenon within children of millennials. While babysitting, I often am instructed by a parent to give a child 1 Oreo or 1 fruit snack, but not 2. Or allow them to watch the first hour of the movie, but not the rest because that's too much. However, when I relay these specific directions to the children, they become upset, similar to how you probably reacted when I restricted you, and sometimes they even break into a temper tantrum. This classic emotional response results from the children's ability to recognize illegitimate restrictions. They beg me to allow them to secretly have more, and I find it hard to understand if the child really is craving the extra snack or extra hour of the movie, or if they just want it because they know they aren't supposed to have it. I often ask them, "Aren't these the rules your mom enforces when she is home?" They respond along the lines of, "Yes, but she's not here right now, and she will never know." That is when I began to understand the strategies of these children, and when I recognized that there was a problem. We all have been told no before in our lives, whether it was our teacher who said we can't have an extension on our homework, our parents telling us that we can't have a few people over while they are away, or Chick-fil-A saying no to us on Sunday. Doesn't this just make us want our requests even more? I mean, what sounds better than Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets for lunch on a Sunday? So, in response, many of us have tried arguing against this no answer, and an even greater majority of us have tried to find a way around the no, which is sometimes through deception, like convincing our babysitters that we are allowed to do something that we actually are not. However, millennial moms and dads have slowly begun to destroy their children's natural process of making their own choices entirely, leaving their children constantly frustrated. These parents, also referred to as digital natives because they were born during the age of digital technology, are the first ever generation to have safety tips constantly at their fingertips, according to a 2017 New York Times article. They're the first generation to have the ability to turn to the internet for answers anytime they make a parenting decision, resulting in millions of links. This makes them feel as though they always know what is best for their children. Although such access to information may seem beneficial, it can be overwhelming at times and make parents constantly wonder if they're checking in on their children enough and enforcing enough rules on them. In return, this can be frustrating for their children as they are bombarded with excessive regulations that are often ultimately ineffective. The major concern of this heavy-handed millennial parenting is the rebellious habits it forces upon their kids, as they will feel more inclined to break these illegitimate rules. And nothing is harder to break than old habits created during childhood. The next tool I'm going to expand upon is mistake making. As the saying of American author Leo Buscaglia goes, in order to learn, you have to be free. You have to be free to experiment, free to try, free to make mistakes. We have all been told that making mistakes is essential to our growth. However, millennial parents must recognize that their children's mistakes are just as important to their growth. Baby Center, a parenting site, surveyed 2,700 U.S. mothers ages 18 to 44 and found that nearly 80% of millennial moms said it's important to be the perfect mom, compared with about 70% of moms in Generation X. There's a clear factor that is causing this major increase in striving for perfection within only 25 short years. Can you take a guess as to what it may be? If you guessed technology, then you're right. It is far too easy for parents nowadays to get caught up in picture-perfect parenting as they compare themselves to the supermodel Instagram moms they see holding smiling kids dressed in matching outfits. This creates pressure to achieve this perfect parenting standard, which in turn ensures their child achieves this perfect child standard. Thereby, parents take it upon themselves to avoid all potential failures for their children and direct all of their kids' decision-making, according to the news magazine Parent Map. However, children need to have the opportunity to understand for themselves that eating too many Oreos will make them feel sick, or watching too much TV will give them a headache, without their parents standing in their way. Additionally, parents are using technology as a tool to foster their idealistic parenting, which compels them to invade the privacy of their children. Parents worldwide are using apps that offer location-based services, such as Life360, which has gained 35 million active monthly users since launching in 2008, according to its website. Parents' enforcement of these apps may seem harmless at first, but through the app's constant notifications, parents are overly informed about their child's every move. Within seconds, a parent can see the average speed of a child's car ride, their phone battery percentage, and their exact location. They can quickly contact their child whenever they have any slight concerns. In this generation, we have overbearing parents, and in the next generation, we will have adults who cannot function without constantly being supervised. How is a child so used to their parents taking the rest of the Oreo packet away expected to control themselves when alone in a grocery store with an unlimited selection of cookies? Without offering children the natural process of independence, they will never develop the ability to self-regulate or ultimately gain control over their own lives. So as we learn to understand this phenomenon, we must ask ourselves, at what point are millennial parents overstepping the boundaries and therefore negatively impacting their child's growth? Just because nowadays parents can keep a constant eye on their developing child at all times does not necessarily mean they should. Millennial parents, I must ask you to recall some of your favorite memories from childhood. Do nostalgic images of Tom and Jerry or maybe SpongeBob pop into your head? Because while you may have fond memories of watching cartoons for 3 hours straight on Saturday morning, you're far less likely as parents to allow your kids to do the same, says digital media company PureWow. So if you view yourself and the rest of your generation as generally well-balanced and successful individuals, despite the time you spent watching the comic fights of Tom and Jerry or the hilarious SpongeBob scenes in Bikini Bottom, then I encourage you to resist this temptation to be a perfect parent in our modern society. Unfortunately, no amount of Googling will allow you to achieve this standard. Now, I do not want to cause confusion. I'm not advocating for children to roam free and be relieved of all discipline. I'm simply highlighting that in our rapidly changing world, some things must be held constant. A child's privacy, ability to make mistakes, and make their own choices should never be taken away from them. If parents do not make an effort to keep this in mind, it will only cause children to yearn for greater privacy, commit even more mistakes, and crave the ability to make more of their own choices before they are ready. Parents must keep these aspects in mind and strive to be good enough parents rather than perfect. Even though this may be challenging, it is essential to avoid creating unnecessary obstacles and allow children to develop into responsible and independent individuals. Thank you.